All right, well, this is a little bit different episode than what we normally put out. I can't take credit for it. I saw the idea from another YouTube creator that posted a bunch of his big sheds, and I thought, hey, why don't we as a team, there's probably half a dozen of us or so that have found some pretty big sheds over the years, and we decided to, hey, let's compile our top three, maybe four or five, just kind of depends on if they're sets or whatnot, and how people wanted to break it down, and compile all them for you in one video. So that's what this is. This is the Outdoor X top three shed video. All right, I figured I'd start it off and go over my top three. It's actually my top two biggest sheds that are a set. And then I have a whole bunch of antlers that are that, 70 to 77 mark. And I just decided to pick my personal favorite. And I'll start with that one. So this is a buck I called the Drop Tine 9 and had 1 year of pictures of him. That's it. I found his set. This was a year old when I found it. He was a little over 20 inches wide probably, but had this big 4.5 inch drop tine off of there. And this shed, it's only 73 and 2/8, but it's basically a 4-point frame with a big drop, and it's just one of my favorite sheds I've ever found. And then I'll fast forward to my second biggest shed ever. If anybody's followed me along on social media over the past, I had a deer I called Mini Maybe. Mini Maybe got his name because he looked a lot like a buck that one of my friends, Colton Hall, had, that everybody knows, Mr. Maybe. He ended up killing this deer. It was like 220 some inches, just an absolute giant of a deer. And this buck had similar brow tine characteristics. So I kept it Mini Maybe because he was obviously a lot smaller. Had pictures of him from 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And I have 7 of his 8 sheds from 2.5 to 5.5. And the 5.5 set is what I'm going to show you. This left side I found one day out in the middle of a grass field. Who knows how long it had been there, but it's basically a 5-point side with a couple splits and kickers and whatnot, and it tapes out at 84 and 2/8 inches. Great beam, great characteristics, but those brows, how they lay out, is what gave him his name. Had a lot of fun hunting him. Had a couple encounters with him the year before this and was just never able to kill him. And as far as I know, nobody ever did. But this is number 2. And it was my biggest shed ever. I think my biggest one before this was like 76 and change. And so I almost beat it by 10 inches. And then an hour later, circling back through, I matched him up and found the right side. So he has this awesome brow tine, forks, split off his 2, split off his 3, and this side scores 87 and 1/8. But he would lay just like this on his head. He laid flat out like this, super wide, and was just one of those deer that just had eye appeal. So that's with spread, it puts him right at 190 inches. By far the biggest set I've ever found. I don't know if I'll ever find a set bigger than that. I'm always looking, but maybe someday.
Hey guys, this is Gavin Collars, and these are my top 3 sheds. Coming in at number 3, the first one with 10 scoreable points came in at exactly 78 inches. Doesn't have super long main beam, but he is super high and tight with a lot of points and a lot of stuff going on. The base on it is pretty big. and he's got a pretty nice vein going up the main beam here, but this is actually an Iowa public land buck. So they're out there. Coming in at number 2 is probably one of my favorite sheds of all time, and it belongs to a deer right behind me. This was from my 2020 bow buck. He ended up scoring 180 the year I shot him, and this antler actually came in at 78 2/8. But he has the same groove here on the bottom side of the main beam, and he's got the split G3. He actually grew a lot of mass from 2019 to 2020 season, so probably one of my all-time favorites. This was actually found probably 75 yards away from where I shot him, so he was pretty well known in the area, or at least he stuck around. And then coming in at number 1 is a match set I found in 2022 on public land here in Iowa also. And the smaller side scored 75 6/8, and the bigger side scored 97 3/8 with 23 measurable points. So I actually tried hunting this deer all this year, and this was the only deer I was going to shoot this year. And he never showed on trail camera or in person, so I don't know what happened to him. I don't know if he died, he got poached, he got hit, I don't know. But just a pretty gnarly deer. Bases aren't terribly big, but he's just got a lot of stuff going on. Some pretty nice color on the bases. I actually found him really late. It was probably late March when I found him, so he did get a little bleach on top, but there's absolutely no chew marks on him. I found him in CRP.
All right, guys, I'm going to run you through my top 3 biggest sheds that I've picked up in 19 years of shed hunting. So coming in at number 3 is a shed to a buck that I call Lucky 7. The reason he got his name initially was being a typical 7-point, and he had actually got shot the year with this antler on, so that's how he got his name. This shed scores 81 6/8, and I actually found his matching half. This side scores 72 3/8. I picked both of these up side by side in one of his beds. Kind of a cool fact about this is when I shot this buck in fall of 2022, we had 4 sheds to this deer, and it was all within a 150-yard radius of where I shot him. So he had kind of a bedroom that he went to, and that was the reason that I ended up moving in on him that fall. You can actually see the hunt on our YouTube channel. But this is a pretty cool find, as it's a typical 7-point, which is pretty rare. But very fortunate with that. So we will go ahead and move into my number 2 shed. This shed scores 82 2/8. And as you can see, it's a 6-point frame, and then he's got some extra trash on him here, but good big massive beam, just a pretty shed. And story behind this, same farm, my buddies actually had found multiple sheds to this buck, so we went in there to try to locate these sheds, and I actually had picked up his matching half here, which scored 71 5/8, and we ended up going back a week later, and I was able to match him up here. So another pretty set. The neighbor to my farm ended up harvesting him the fall of 2021. But very nice buck, very cool. Moving into my number 1 shed. This is a shed that I actually picked up 19 years ago. This is what got me into shed hunting. I was 13 years old, out riding my ATV across from my parents' house on the neighbor's farm there, and laying underneath the cedar tree. It looked like a big rib cage laying there like this, tines down. So I went driving over there in my four-wheeler and noticed it was a deer antler and picked it up and took it home. I didn't know what I had. And to be honest with you, I never went back out to try to match it up because I just was never into shed hunting at the time, didn't run trail cameras, nothing like that. So the following year, it got me starting to start going out and looking for sheds. And so this is kind of what started my obsession with shed hunting and deer hunting and everything. So still haven't beat it to this day. It might be one I will never beat. But this scores 88 and 2/8. It's obviously a big typical 6-point, big tall tines, just stair step down. And it's got this cool little hook off of the G2 here. But very pretty antler. So one that hopefully I'll beat someday, but good chance I won't. So that's my top 3 sheds. I hope you guys enjoyed.
Hey guys, Greg here. I'm going to show you my top 3 sheds sets, and doing this because Jesse wanted me to. First, my biggest 8-point mainframe 8 is a deer that my buddy Josh ended up shooting. If you look up Gunner, just type in Gunner Josh, I think on YouTube it'll pop up. He hit this deer, it survived, and that's probably one of my cleanest pair of 8-point sheds. He's got some trash, but super old deer, really cool. My biggest typical 10 set is this guy. He ended up dying the next year of EHD, and he went 184. So here my father-in-law hit him low, and he lost his antlers on us. So that's my biggest typical set. I'm not sure exactly what they scored. They're very large. I don't have time to score them. I barely have time to do this video. And then real quick, all of Carlos's sheds. Carlos is the deer right there. I have 8 sheds off of him. I don't know if all 8 are right here. I think they might be. And then Newt sheds. Here's when he was 4. I have 9 sheds off of him, I believe. And these are reconstructed. The farmer found them. You can see that these tines over here got all hit with the disc and reconstructed. No inches added, just antlers put back on and colored. And then my prized possession, my biggest set, I found this side, which goes 89 and change. And the story goes at the Deer Classic in 2018 we found him. I shot him in 2018. This guy brought this, some guy that was hunting in the general area, found this shed. This was 90 and some change. So 89 and 90, then I killed him. And that is the deer that our logo is off of, and that's right there. I have 9 sheds off of him too. I don't need to go get all those, but that's my prized possession. You guys see these in the podcast a lot. So 89 and 90. I could be off by a little bit. It might be 91, but.
The Outdoor X media crew and Jesse and a few people had been in talks of going through some of our biggest sheds. So I've pulled a few of our sheds from over the years here in Northwest Indiana. 2016 came and we had this what a monstrosity of an 8-point. He was, in 2016, he was a gross boon 8-point. I think he probably would have net gross boon. Here is these were scored at the Iowa Deer Classic. The date of the shed was, I found it on the 12th of April. I was actually mushroom hunting. But let's get right to it. This is a 4-point side that goes 80 and 3/8. the following year, in 2017, he dropped this little G4 he had going on there. Monster buck. I had 3 years of history with him, and he was actually killed in 2018, and he was going downhill pretty substantially. Had some pretty bad injuries from fighting. He actually had holes in his shoulder. I got to go see the deer when the neighbor killed it, and I got to go get some pictures with the deer. But so this was his 2016 side. I never did find a match. I found his 3.5-year-old side. I think this was his, he was either 6.5 or 7.5, I'm not 100% sure. And then this, just for comparison, this was his, this one went 78 unofficially. I scored it. It's obviously not far off of this one, but after this 2017 shed, he actually went downhill pretty substantially. And that next deer that I ended up killing was the 188 and 1/8 green score gross. After the drying period, I think he was like 186, but that'll be on a future video. I'll show you guys. I think we're going to do something maybe with the man caves. So I think I got 22 deer heads in the basement here, so we'll do those another day. But this deer, never knew of this deer. He moved out of the farm late season, probably after hunting season, I'm assuming. The shed hadn't been laying there very long at the time. I think it was probably laying there for a week or two. There's a lot of beavers in that area, and squirrels, and I always check that area frequently over the years because things get chewed up quick. This one actually went 92. This one was scored at the Iowa Deer Classic as well. This one went 92 and 5/8. It's just massive, massive deer. And I knew that the other antler was probably close by. And the day that I went out and took a walk, it was early, it was like the first week of February. Snow had kind of melted off, there was some patchy ice, and someone had driven a vehicle out into the field, and I seen where it stopped, and I saw the footprints in the ice where someone had got out and did something. Didn't know who it was, didn't know anything about it. About 5 months went by, and I put in on my Fitbit, I think I put in like 260 miles looking for this other side, because I knew it was probably one of the only times I would ever have a chance to find potentially a gross 200-inch deer. I don't know where he came from. To this day, it kind of haunts me. I don't know of anybody that killed the deer. I don't know where he came from or which direction he went. Fast forward like 5 months, and I heard a rumor about a guy that was tearing some old barn wood off of a barn. They got permission to come out on the property, and apparently he took a drive around the field and picked up the other side to this deer. So I ended up getting in contact with the guy and setting up a time to meet up, and I got to go over and actually see the other side of this deer. And I got pictures with the other side. I didn't really get to score it, but it's the same exact frame, it just doesn't have this point. It had a kicker off the base that was broke off that looked like a pretty good tine. But he would have been he would have been scored as a 6x6 typical. I think he would have grossed, like, I'm guessing if you put an 18-inch spread on this deer, he probably would have went like 203. If he had everything, he probably would have been right at 2. But awesome specimen for the state of Indiana, and it's too bad that I don't know any more history of him. I wish I did, but yep, officially that's my biggest antler to date here in Indiana.
Alright, so we're doing this top 3 biggest shed deal, and only one of mine is a personal find. It's actually the best one. I'm going to save it for last. But we'll start off with this set here. This was given to me after I harvested this deer. I called this deer the junk buck. He's the one on your left. He scored 183 and 1/8. I killed him in 2010, I believe, with my bow. Got first place in the Iowa Deer Classic Youth Archery Non-Typical. But this set here was 2 years before I killed him. I know where the set is in between this year and when I killed him. Unfortunately, the guy doesn't want to come off of him. But this right side here scored 66 and 2/8. And this left one was 70 and 1/8. The next one here, he's broken off most of his main beam. This was to my second biggest deer, which would be the middle one here. This antler was given to me as well. I scored it even though it's broken. It was a 63 and 1/8. I actually do have a trail cam picture of this deer broken, just like he is right here. But that is my second biggest bow kill at 184 and 1/8. I believe I killed him in 2018. And then this here is my biggest antler I've ever found. It scored at 82 and 4/8. It's got a few inches chewed off here. This is to this deer, which is currently my biggest deer I killed during late muzzleloader. He netted 197 and gross 207. But I found this antler maybe, I think it was a week after I killed him. Never stepped foot on the property before. I waterfowl hunted it, and scouting waterfowl, I noticed, well, that's how I found him. And then talked to the landowner, got permission to deer hunt it. I went in and walked the property after I killed him. I ended up finding this one and a few others, but this is by far my biggest antler I've ever found. Like I said, it was 82 and 4/8. And after the word got out that I killed this deer, apparently a lot more people knew about him than what I thought, but it took some persuading, but I was able to buy the other side to match this one. And this side was 88 and 4/8. I'll be lucky if I ever top these sheds or this deer, but super thankful.
So top 3 shed is kind of top 4 in this situation. This is, I don't know if he's in my, I have some other antlers that are better than this one, but it's kind of unique not to share. The drop time is actually just short of a foot, and squirrels chewed on it a little bit. But so the cool story about this deer is he had the very, very matching size as far as his 5-point frame goes, but he had drop tines doubles. He had one on each side. Now the other antler never got picked up, but what was cool was the deer ended up getting killed the following year, and my dad was able to mount it. And same thing, it had double drops. Now both of them were only about that, but it's cool. It's a 79-inch antler with a just shy of a 12-inch drop tine. It's a pretty cool antler. The next one, and next step bigger, is this cool 5-point mainframe. I found this when I was shed hunting with my buddy. Property that is already hunted, the person that owns it hunts it, but he doesn't shed hunt, so he lets us shed hunt it, and this is what we picked up. He don't want the antlers, so we kept it. It's a heck of an antler. This one here is right at 89 1/8. It's a heck of an antler. Got a cool split. And the deer just lives on a little piece. This deer actually, again, got killed a couple years later. It went 212, if I remember right. Cool antler. Now this is my favorite. I'll probably never find another antler. I'll never find antlers like this ever again. But here's the first one. And this deer went, this antler in particular, went 98 inches. And what's cool is me and my buddy, again, I was shed hunting with him. We have found a few different sets of this deer, this obviously being the biggest set. But after this year, we never found any more. A bunch of the chunk of the skull came out here, so I don't know, if he got sick. EHD was bad that year, but what to top it off is I found his matching set right here. Now this antler went right at 99 inches. Heck of a deer. Heck of a deer. But that's his match set. The deer was a colossal.